All right, Joy Adler, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, could not be better. Could not be better.
We've been chatting here for a little bit. We just had a great, it's not even an interview, a conversation with Brian Melick from Albany 518. Just a magnificent percussionist, great human, storyteller, always giving from his heart. How can we do this thing and create together? And of course, you've played with him for years. I've known him for a while as well, and just wonderful to have him on Energy Diagnostics Podcast and talk with him for quite a while. Really fabulous to get to know him even more so.
And learn more about him and his origin, and how he's still doing today, Dan. How he came up, how he grew up.
Yeah.
He might be at SPAC one day with an orchestra, the next day playing with a jazz trio in Schenectady, and the day after that be playing with a singer-songwriter in Hudson, and then he's on the road. And he shares his stories on social media for us all to join in on the fun. He's always casting the light and really showing up in support with whatever is required for the ambient field as a percussionist. He's really quite unique. So we had a fabulous conversation with him about being in Modern Drummer magazine for making that tricked out Lego drum kit.
Yeah, if you're just hearing this, you're going to want to jump over and check out YouTube. We're going to put all kinds of links, images of, yeah, the Lego kit. Yes, it's a playable. You could go to the Percussive Arts Museum and play this Lego kit. Not only that, but the drum kits he creates for performances. I don't think I've ever seen him play the same thing twice.
Well, he makes them himself. He's very humble. And I said to him, he's an inventor. He truly is. And he's connected to the spirit of the vision of the musical director for any event or group, and really just aligns his intention with theirs and brings the magic. So we are so blessed to start 2025 with the greats from 518. He's going to be in the Eddie's Hall of Fame. He's going to be inducted in March. Our wonderful, mystical, magical Brian Melick on Energy Diagnostics Podcast. We have so much to celebrate as one of the greats of 518, Energy Diagnostics Podcast, Brian Melick, celebrating you. And we are so excited for this well-deserved honor that you have upcoming,
Thank
the
you.
Eddies.
Yeah, I'm very touched by it.
Amazing. And you had a very special engagement and tour this past year, which was kind of a bucket list for you. We'd love for you to tell our viewers and our listeners about it. It was wonderful to see how happy you were finally in Africa, right?
Yeah, so with our friend Elizabeth Woodbury Cassius, a brilliant pianist composer,
Yes.
that has such a wide girth in her music, from classical to Brazilian and West African. And as I've learned with my other work with Elizabeth, she also loves the 80s, the 70s and the 80s. But truthfully, my life got changed when I was very young. I was born into a very supportive and incredible family. My folks were just amazing, and my sister equally so. Matter of fact, my sister was the first one that bought me a conventional drum, if you will. My dad and my mother, they just fueled the fire. They would allow me to. I sort of am a cliche, if you will. I mean, my talk about drum kits, Dan. Mine was, the bass drum was a roller skating case, and whatever mom and dad would let me bang on. But it was my great uncle that got me going. And why all this is important, before I even say anything about Africa, is because what happened to me, my folks went out to a garage sale. And up until this point, I'm about maybe, I'd say I've been playing. I started banging around when I was a kid, but I really started to formulate ideas, probably when I was about 6, 7 years old. My mother actually told me that a very interesting thing happened to me. She said, you're a very introverted child. I'm like, what? But she said that you were a very introverted child. And when your sister brought home a drum for you, she said it was like Brian went out to play and you came in and that Brian never came back home. I became this other kind of person. That's why when I talk to folks and they have young children or even themselves 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and even older saying, boy, I always wanted to, or I always liked to, I politely try to reinforce that, because you know what, I'm very, very, very blessed and grateful. I pray to God every day and thank God for the ability to be able to have this gift and to be able to have a vehicle for it. You know what I mean? And all I want to do is be a positive light for the world. And that's why I say to people all the time, it doesn't matter if you're playing in front of nobody or a million people. It doesn't matter. What you're doing when you're doing this is you're allowing yourself to let go. And when you let go, all the good in you, all the beautiful positive energy comes out. With all that said, what happened is while I was exploring and doing my thing, my mom and dad went out to a garage sale one day and happened to pick up a record that would change my life. That was Baba Olatunji's Drums of Passion. I think they paid 50 cents for it. My mother was my whole family was huge listeners of music. I grew up in a very interesting home. My mother loved to listen to opera. She loved, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra. They were huge dancers, my folks, not just in ballroom, but everything, square dancing, clogging, you name it. My sister loved Soul Train and listened to all the greats. She was the one that spun my head around. I was listening to Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin, which I still do. But she was the one that hit me to Earth, Wind and Fire, Average White Band, and all of a sudden I'm hearing more than what I'm playing or what I know as a drum set. I'm starting to go down this other, like, what's that sound, But it wasn't until my folks brought home that Drums of Passion record. Man, first note, that the hair on the back of my neck stood up and my life was changed. I was like, wow, what just hit me, And so what was that, 12 years old? And I'm 62. So it took me 50 years. But the day that I got on that stage with Heard, and let me just say that it meant everything, I think, for all of us. I mean, I would never dare speak or put words in anybody's mouth, but I sincerely took Zorky aside one time when we were there. And I told him, I said, Zorky, I said, thank you, but I really think you need to know how deep this means to me. He goes, oh, I know, as he would. He's an older man. He's a master drummer, but he's more than that. He's just a real soul, old soul. And the fact that he was proud about what he's doing with us and he thought enough of us as people because we stayed with him. So not only did we get to go to Ghana, but get to go to Ghana for, as they say, boots on the ground for a week. And that week was loaded. I mean, it was really something what he did for us. I'll never be able to really fully thank him. I mean, everything. I mean, from the good, the bad, and it was never to, when I say bad, what I mean by that is it's just, I have a real problem with a lot of our history. It's our history, so we have to acknowledge it. When we went to the Elmina Castle to pay respects and to learn of the horrific that went on, it's staggering when you think that there was 35 massive buildings like this along the coast of Africa doing these things. And that doesn't even get into what happened inland into the cities. We were all incredibly grateful to be able to go and pay our respects. You know what I mean? I can't even begin to tell you how the feedback of writing a journal while I was in Africa, I felt compelled to do it because I was so moved by everything, starting with the people. I mean, we could stay here and just talk about that. Wow, we have a lot to learn. I'm grateful for what we have here in the States, but somehow we get lost in it. What I saw there, just the resilience of the people, what they deal with every day. We have such luxuries here. Even if you think you're in poverty, you have such luxuries here, that I saw these folks didn't have. It all starts somewhere, right? And so for me, it was that listening to Baba's music and being inspired and starting to go down that path as a musician, and then gravitating towards certain experiences connected to music and art that really drew me deeper in. And as a percussionist, the greatest thing I can ever do for somebody is to support their music, to service their music, but also to help embellish the idea of what their music is without taking anything away from what they're doing. And that's what led me down the path of coloring, if you will. I mean, I say it kiddingly, but I'm a kid in a crayon box, I get to color every day, and that's kind of what I love. That's most certainly what I love to do, but the
You
theme, the
are
music.
really aligned with your integrity, Brian. I see it all the time. And I got to learn what an additional creative gift that you have of writing. It was lovely to read. But every day you're stepping up. Every day you're supporting artists and shining the light on them. And then also we get to see what you brought to the show, the concert, the event, the table, if you will. And it's always in service to what's the vision for this event. I remember you knowing that we were coming to playing in a beautiful, like a great acoustics, and you brought that kit that you had created, right? Did he solder that himself? Because you knew with the ambiance of that particular church that we were in for a different kind of event, right? You would be able to hear the nuances of different percussive instruments and colors and flavors and acoustical sounds to delight the senses. One thing I don't if you know about Dan, he is he's a Lego master. He's a fan. He's really into it. What most intelligent people love Legos. What is that? Like, is there a statistic?
I got my Lego mug, Brian.
Oh my, you win, man. I don't have that.
No. Listen, I bought this. I did not build, get ready, people. I did not build a drum kit from Lego that you can play actually in a museum that you can check out. It's not, I bought it in a thing. Brian created a Lego drum kit, playable. You were in, I don't know how many publications for that. We're certainly going to link that and probably some video to it as well.
Well,
What the heck, man?
Dan, who doesn't love Legos? I mean, who loves to step on Legos? That's the crazier point. No, but yeah. So how did that happen? I mean, when I was a kid, Legos are not cheap, and I don't want to make everything about money or whatever, but they were not cheap. They were accessible, but not everybody had that kind of money, and so I think I was about 17 or 18 years old, and my folks came across a Lego set they could swing. I got it for Christmas or something. And I remember every day coming home and building that thing. But I mean, it was like your typical blocks and your typical like little roof and whatever. But I loved that little tree, a little door that opened. That was that was
my go-to as a kid. If I wasn't, drawing, I had bins and buckets and the castles and the space guys, and there were all sorts of conflicts happening in my bedroom when I was 8, 9 years old playing. And I even to this day, right? It's still something we gift here at the house.
Good for you, and don't stop. And so what happened is that I am truly blessed. I have 2 beautiful children. My son, Dan, is 30 years old. He's an officer in the Air Force, and he is deep into Legos. He uses Lego as a medium for his own creations, his own models. He loves planes and things like that. And it's so cool because they were so involved. And of course, as a parent, my wife Susan and I, we certainly want to always help enrich that and encourage that kind of creativity. So we would always purchase different types of Lego sets and stuff. And he always built them, but then he would rip them apart and create his own thing.
Right.
But that's genuinely how I got into this. So what happens is that we have a very modest home. And I say that only because of where we are sort of positioned. The room I'm sitting in is probably one of the smaller rooms in the house. And my son's room is kitty corner. It's upstairs and to the front of the house. And I absolutely could not concentrate when Evan was upstairs raking his hands through the boxes that you were just talking about of Legos. Let's just start there. I couldn't concentrate. There was so much sound and texture, and I had to figure out a way, which I'm still trying to figure out a way, to create that sound. You know what I mean? But I found that going to these conventions with my son, when Evan was about 17 or so, he was kind of throwing me under the bus, man, telling the whole family that dad's never took him to this international Lego convention and yada, yada, yada. And, kids, man, they love you, but they're quick to just throw you under the bus. I was like, look it, man, I told you year after year, you got to tell me. I mean, this is, my world. I got a book out and so on and so forth. I interrupted his Thanksgiving dinner. I said, give me the dates right now. Go get me the dates. But I'm eating, give me the dates. You just embarrassed me in front of the whole family. You stop and you give me the date. You gave me the dates. I said, great. And that evening, I think we booked our room. Well, that was a big deal for me, Dan, because not only did I go and see all these incredible, beautiful people that are complete nerds about what they do, I learned the rules. But what I learned from the little toddlers, and I am not kidding you, in this massive, if I was to explain this, it's in Chantilly, Virginia. It's called Brick Fair. And this man rents out what used to be a Walmart supercenter. So you got that magnitude of size. I am not kidding you when I tell you this place is literally filled with vendors, exhibitors, makers, play areas, little snack shops. They have lecture halls. It is incredible. And people literally come from all over the world to this place. It's like a 3-day event. They do probably anywhere between, I'd say, 11 and maybe close to 20,000 people on any given public day. Oh, it's over the top. But you meet all these incredible people, but it was the toddlers. The toddlers taught me a valuable lesson. I was walking around just taking it all in. My cheeks hurt. I was smiling all day. I was meeting some of the coolest people in the world, right? So I'm walking around, I see these little toddlers. I swear they're like maybe 2, 3 years old or something. And they're playing, but they're making curved shaped things like snakes and things. I'm like, you can't do that with Legos, right? So I go back to my son and I said, Evan, is there a kid or something that makes it so you can create these curves? And he says, no, Dad, I can teach you how to do that. I feel like, it's like, is that a moronic question? I'm sorry. I've never seen it. It's all just simply a repetograph. And I love repetographs as art, right? But it's a repetition of, if I have folks out there in radio world that know about the cylinder bricks, it's a 1x1 cylinder brick, right? It's like just a cylinder. And then a 1x3 brick. And so if you put those, repeating that combination, the round allows the square to bend. I was like, these little toddlers were geniuses. And so what happened is I went, oh my God, I could make a drum. So I went down to this pick-a-brick wall. I had this Lego store, which is dangerous for anybody out there that ever wants to go. Don't bring all your money. You'll spend all your money. So everybody was losing their mind about the pick-a-brick wall. So anyways, I started losing my mind. I went, oh my God, there's all those cylinder bricks. And these they happen to have gray and red, and that became the thing. No kidding. I started building it. It's amazing, right? I don't care how old you are. When the light bulb goes off, you get very excited. And what changed the game is I saw these little things. I would later find out that they're affectionately called cheese wedges, but they're 1x1 90-degree triangles. Now, why I get all nerded about that is because for a drum to work, you really have to have the best quality bearing edge that you can get. The bearing edge of a drum, especially the batter side, the side that you hit, it's almost like you want to make it almost like a razor. I mean, there's all different philosophies on this. I'm not saying that what I found was the perfect. I'm just saying that the idea is that you have the least amount of weight of material touching the underside of the membrane, so you get the most reverberation and overtones. So that's essentially it. And then what I did is, because there's rules, there's hard and fast rules here, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to do this, you can't cut, you can't drill, and you must never glue.
Right.
Right. And so I built this shell. I found on the resonating head, that's the bottom head of a drum, I found that there's things that they call 1x1 plates, but really what they are is these little flat things that are one stud. and it's like a little circle. I was able to create a bearing edge so that when the drum head went on, I used a convention. I wanted to use it. And I figured if it doesn't work, nobody will ever know. I'll just take it apart, throw the stuff in the box. But anyways, to basically mount the hardware and stuff that I needed, I had to create voids and things like that. I will say that since I've done it, I think I built it in 2012. 2013 is when I refined the idea. Once I proved the snare drum worked, I put drum heads on it. I put a snare drum on it. I flipped the switch. I hit the drum once. My son in 2 steps was downstairs going, "What is that?" I had no idea that it was going to even work.
Right.
It's got the coolest sound. It's very different. You'd think that the plastic would choke it out. The drum sounds bigger than it actually is. I've used it on record dates. I've used it on live dates. I probably have on this snare drum, I'd say without even exaggeration, close to 300-400 gigs and several record dates. Yeah. I don't use it so much now. And it's not because I don't care for it. It's just that a very dear friend, Michael Carlito, made me a custom snare drum. And, so it's not that it's put away. It's just, it's not the first thing I grab, but I'd use it tomorrow if I needed it. So once the snare drum worked, I said, I got to make a drum set. And so then that led to, hey, let's let the neighborhood know. So I reached out to Drum Magazine. I reached out to Modern Drummer. And then I reached out to Percussive Arts Society. I figured, hey, I'm getting a chuckle. But I tell you what happened, Dan, that changed the game. And this is the true story. Very dear friend and amazing pianist, composer, teacher, Peggy Delaney, happened to be at a show that Elizabeth Woodbury Cassius put together. This one particular show, I was playing a lot of swing and stuff. So I said, hey, can I bring the Lego kit? I think that, they would really enjoy that. She said, oh, please, Peggy Delaney with her phone shot like a 1 minute video and sent it to me. And I thought, wow, this is so cool. There was no amplification. This room is very intimate. So we didn't mic anything up. There was no microphones and PA systems and stuff. We didn't need it. Everybody was flabbergasted because you can make anything sound incredible. We all know that. Plugins, dials, and EQs. In this particular case, when I sent it to Modern Drummer, no fool. I didn't expect anybody to get back to me. I thought they would get a chuckle and that would be that, But I literally got his email off the thing and I said, listen, I sent you some things and left my number and I hit send. I swear to God, I swear to you, maybe not even an hour later, I get a phone call. Is Brian Melick there? And I said, yeah, this is Brian. He didn't even introduce himself. He just went, what have you created here? And he was referring to that video. He said, man, it sounds incredible. And there's no mics. And of course, we have room for this in Modern Drummer. This would be crazy.
Palpable when that was released. That article is phenomenal. And you know what? It occurs to me, Brian Melick, you are an inventor.
Well, thank you. I did that officially, you could say, with the Udu drum. But thank you very much. That means a lot. There's a few people now that have created some really cool things with Lego and conventional drums that have really taken it to the next step, I did a single tension because I was proving a concept. When I proved it out with the snare drum, I got so excited about building a regular drum kit and using it that I didn't think about, they get taken to the next step technically. So I'm really happy that the other guy did. But I got to tell you that when the Percussive Arts reached out and said to me, we would, if you're so inclined, we'd love to have it in our permanent collection. I got to tell you, I couldn't breathe. The first thing I thought of was, well, I'm really honored. But I played this. This is no joke. So what I did is I contacted the man. We had a really nice conversation. And I said, listen, I'd be honored to make the museum a set, And they were funny. Their reply was, oh, our colors are black and red. And so I reached out to my cymbal company, Amedia. This cymbal company has just been amazing to deal with. Amedia has several lines of cymbals and so on. I use a smattering with our work, Joy, and with a lot of people. Fortunate that I've been able to be with these guys for a long time and had custom things made and so on. But they have a cymbal that's just outrageously beautiful. After the cymbalsmith makes the cymbal, they give it an acid bath. It's the weirdest thing. You would think it would affect the sound. It affects the sound in no way, shape, or form. What it does is it gives it a blackish hue. And then the stamp that they put on it that says Amedia is red. So I called them and I said, may I purchase a set of these cymbals specifically to give to the Percussive Arts Museum, And of course, the company was very gracious. They made it possible for me to do that without breaking the bank. And man, the cymbals they just sound so great. What's so cool now is just the other day, I don't even know why or how I landed on it, but I saw some dude playing the kit. He was like a little kid, and he was killing it. So man, I don't care how old you are, you start messing with something like that. And so I don't mean to go on and on, but it's just so fun, My wife is amazing. I said, Sue, I'm going to buy some Legos and build a kit for the museum. And I was able to go and deliver it. But here's the thing. You think that that's crazy and cool in itself. Let me tell you, when I got there, we brought the kit to the museum. I said, where would you like me to set this up and so on. And Jeff said, geez, Brian, we didn't talk to you ahead of time. I hope this is okay for you, but we'd like you to set it up in the Discovery Center. And I said, what's that? He goes, well, we have the museum where it's stuff that, gifted to us, Buddy Rich kits, Gene Krupa, all these beautiful percussion instruments. So he said, and then we have this other section specifically designed so that the public can play it, touch it, feel it. I said, you want me to set my kit up so people from all over the world can play this kit? Show me where to go. He goes, and just know that your drum set is the flagship exhibit of this new exhibit we have. It was called "And the Kitchen Sink." It's brilliant. But here's the cool thing. They've had me position my stuff between half of the kitchen scene that Stomp featured and Stomp Out Loud, the video. And to my right was one of the cool Blue Man Group, big PVC things where you hit it and the guys I told Jeff I went to heaven. My stuff is in the middle of these two. I've arrived.
I can't even begin to imagine how many hundreds, if even thousands of groups that you have brought that magic vibe, that integrity, always connecting in with, what's the vision for this? How can I bring my best?
Yeah.
What wants to come along with me? What am I going to load up? And recently it was announced from the Capital Region Thomas Edison Music Awards that we are thrilled, they said, to announce the Capital Region Thomas Edison Music Hall of Fame class of 2025. The group includes internationally acclaimed percussionist Brian Melick, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Brian, what does it mean after all these years to be inducted in your area's Hall of Fame?
Oh, it means everything. I think anybody coming from any area, when your peers in your community recognize what you do, you can make a big splash out there in the world. But when the folks at home recognize what you're doing and they see that what you're doing is a value and it's bringing up, I mean, on many levels, they're acknowledging you, you're acknowledging the person, they're acknowledging what you represent, and that you're honoring the people you're working with. I never take anything for granted that I do. I never have, and I never will. We're just blessed to be in a community that we're in here. I've had the pleasure, probably at least almost 20 years of traveling and touring around the country and through northern Canada and of course, now that blessing that we had going over to Ghana. I mean, I hope we can go again for sure. We were accepted. I think that's the other side of it, that people embrace you for what you're doing. You know what I mean? When I got the note from Jim Murphy, I was in Hudson, New York, because I had just had a rehearsal with a beautiful group called Higher Octave, led by Larry Charnikoff, a beautiful vibes player, but an amazing composer. And I'm sitting there, I felt the phone buzz, and I thought perhaps it was my wife or somebody, in the family. Pardon me. So I reached the phone and discreetly looked at the screen, and I'm reading this, and I'm like, who are they writing? Who are they, regarding? It's like, oh my God, that's me. I did not see that one coming, you know what I mean? And I think it still hasn't really fully, to be regarded this way in your community, it means everything to me. It really does. It means everything to me.
A couple years ago, Heard played at the Eddies. It is the most profound performance live that I have ever seen in the area. And of course, Elizabeth Woodbury Cassius, she's just so beyond the beyond where she goes musically and her compositions, the dancing, you playing beside Zorky, the whole group just on fire.
Yeah, it was nice.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, I felt good. And I mean this with the utmost respect. It never ceases to amaze me what I learn about in the area.
Yeah.
I think that we know what we know. You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes there's things that are happening in our area that we're just not aware of. It's not for nothing. It's just you just haven't been exposed to it, you know?
You bring light to them every day, though. You're always letting people know who you're performing with, what the event is. You use your gift of writing. And I love learning more about you and how you came up, Brian, because it seems to me like I remember bringing Patricia White Buffalo from California and you never having performed with her before and creating a one-of-a-kind, in the moment, one-off concert experience that my students still enjoy, you know, the shamanic retrievals, and really brought to life through, of course, you and Elizabeth and Mick and the soundscapes that you were making so I could chant and she could do her beautiful soul retrieval work, and it was all captured live. When I think about you and when I'm learning about your history, there's classical, opera, country, and there's you with your rock, and then Sis, she's got Soul Train on. And it seems to me when I go through what you're writing and sharing with the world, you live that every week. You'll be at SPAC playing with an orchestra. Then the next thing you know, you're playing with a jazz great from the area. You were down in Hudson playing with these great singers and songwriters. It's just a week in the book of your life, Brian. Seems to me like it's just brings it full circle from where you started, and that you can step into any kind of musical genre and bring the magic and bring the vibe, you know. Elizabeth Woodbury Cassius is credited with saying, Brian Melick is by far the most spiritually evolved person I have ever met. If you could know Brian, Brian knows things, and he brings in this higher vibration in everything that he does. I remember a couple of years ago, P. Furlong doing that great, putting that documentary together about you. You know,
that was
you got the documentary, you're in the drum museum, now you're gonna be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you know, and people just wanting to show how much of a difference that you've made, how what a mentor you've been. I loved that you know, beautiful documentary that he made in tribute to you, Brian, with so many
I
people.
was
Speaking about the vibe that you bring, what a tremendous human being you are and what a talent.
well, thank you, Joy. Yeah, that was wow. That was another one of those very unexpected things. We all, if I can be a little melancholy, I guess, I lost my folks now, and I remember talking to my dad once, and I said, Dad, my whole life you've leveled me, with the stories and with, the antics as a kid, and so on and so forth. And, profound individual when it came to his connection to nature and being so connected to horticulture and to his animals. We didn't have the property that would yield a proper farm, but my dad added a little bit of land to our property, but I think maybe on a good day we had maybe a half an acre, maybe just close to 3/4. But if I told you that he had over 600 animals at any one time, I wouldn't be lying. I just wouldn't be lying to you. I mean, from flying squirrels to chinchillas to emus to, you know, multiple species of pheasants. But my point is, I said to him once, when you're ready, I said, Dad, not to make you feel uncomfortable, because my father he couldn't be in a room full of people. He didn't care for that. So even as a son, and we, loved each other and we had this great relationship, I said to him, I don't want to make you nervous by having a microphone in your face. I said, but to hear your story and your words, I mean, anybody would agree, to have their elders be recorded so that generations later they could hear the voice of their great, 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 And so I say all that to say that when Pete called me and said, Brian, I'm taking a film class. And he said, and the assignment is to do a short documentary or a short movie of some sort or whatever. And he said, as soon as I got the assignment, I thought I would love to do a short documentary on my friend Brian Melick. And when he called me and said, would you be okay with that? I said, Pete, do you understand what you're offering here? You're offering a story for generations of my family, whether I haven't driven everybody crazy or not. But I was incredibly, incredibly taken by that. Incredible. And I still am, Joy. First of all, let me just tell you that when he came here and we spent a good 4 hours together, or even maybe we did it a few times. I have been fortunate in my life to have been interviewed many times. And I have to tell you something about Pete. His questions were profound. The way that he asked them, I told him, I said, I'm really taken by this. And he said, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I said, it's an exceptional thing. Just the way that he worded questions. And I can't even give you an example, but he would ask a question in such a way that it would make me have to go deep. And I never mind that. Some people have a problem with that. We are who we are, good, bad, and the ugly, and so, but the questions, it was just really nice to be challenged like that. I mean, and maybe that's not the right word to use, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Hey,
Really modeled the respect of you. And I can imagine you must have been really moved by someone who would risk asking the depth of those questions to help you to open and reveal even more of the wisdom and stories in there. Brian, I want to thank you. And as luck would have it, on Sunday, April 6th, for One Song at Unity,
yes,
King Avenue in Albany, New York, Pete Furlong, Dan Zavadil, the great Brian Melick, Roger Mock, musical director extraordinaire on guitar, myself, and the iconic songwriter Mark Shepard's coming down from the Adirondacks, and
it's going to be great.
At Unity. We really want to invite you to be there. Magic is happening. We want to thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so
President
much.
on Energy Diagnostics Podcast, the man, master percussionist of soul, Brian Melick. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. No, I really appreciate the opportunity. Great seeing you. We'll see you
Thank you
soon.
so
Bye-bye
much.
now.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Joy and I really appreciate it. Hey, if you're liking our content here, please make sure you like, follow, subscribe on your favorite platform to make sure you, stay up to date with all the latest and greatest we put out here at Energy Diagnostics Podcast.
That's right, Dan. And if you're liking our content, folks, please feel free to share so others may enjoy the benefit of the wisdom our guests are offering.
Thanks so much, and be kind to each other out there.